every team in the NHL is looking for center iceman. This team has 4. Who's number 4? Is it Yanni or is it Shane? I don't know. I mean, but 1, 2 are pretty damn good.
You know Ian Furness from his 12 to 3 midday show on KJR-FM Sports Radio. For those who haven't listened to the Ian Furness show, and if you're not, why the hell not?
Thank
but
you.
Here's a little sample of you with Dan Bilesma, and on the other side, I'll ask you about the coaching change.
What do you like to do for preseason games? Like, what if you're going out to the game, fans are going out on Sunday, or for any of the couple preseason games at home, what do you like to have on the ice?
Yeah, it's a good question, and training camp's gotten shorter and shorter and shorter. We only have 20 days, I think it is, before the first game, and so that, to me, seems like a terribly short period of time to try to get our team together, to try to get the way we want to play, and the that ingrained and instilled in our team.
Number 1, bless you for the hockey talk. And number 2, Dave Hackstall out, Dan Bilesma in. Your thoughts?
Necessary change. I equate it a lot, and it's probably no coincidence it's Todd Leiwecke's involved, but I equate it a lot to 2009 with the Seattle Seahawks. Jim Mora had 1 year. It was an absolute disaster. First year I really covered the Seahawks, it was just an absolute just a dumpster fire. But they had signed him to a pretty healthy contract. It was, he was owed well into 8 figures when it was all said and done. And it wasn't working. They made the decision to get rid of him for the better of the organization, because there was no complacency. Paul Allen was not a complacent man, and Todd Leiwecke understood the fan base, understood what the fan base wanted. And that they wanted a winner. They wanted a coach that they could be proud of. They wanted all of those things. They fired him. Cost Paul Allen a ton of money. I think with Dave Hackstall, it's the same thing. They were kind of painted into a corner. You know how the business works, Glenn. You have a great year, go to the playoffs. You don't want to have a coach going into the final year of his deal. So you kind of, you give him an extension. It's just what happens. And I bet deep down, they probably were even wondering, is this, was it working or not? And it wasn't working. It didn't work last year. They didn't have the team built for what he wanted to do. I think Hack was very rigid in what he did. He's a fine coach in his own right. I think he's a great playoff coach, to be honest with you. Short spurts. I'm not sure if 82 games guys can tolerate that. The system he played was hard. It didn't really fit these guys. It's not a heavy team up front. And so I think, but Todd Leiwecke and the ownership of the Kraken, kind of like they did with the television deal, they listened and they heard and they saw that they had to make a change. And I think just organizationally, they had to make a change. And they've had a guy in the system that has kind of reinvented himself by going back to the American League, and Dan Bilesma, with a pedigree that you don't find in the American Hockey League all too often behind the bench. And they went out and got a guy that is just a breath of fresh air on the ice, off the ice. And I think even as you hear on the media, you deal with them, it's night and day. Will that translate to more wins? Time will tell, but I think I like what I've seen so far. I like the style I've seen, at least in terms of practices and watching how he interacts in the practices, even during rookie minicamp. He's just very involved. Necessary change and a good change, and I think it'll pay off down the road.
Outside of Seattle, hockey media isn't giving the Kraken a lot of off-season love. ESPN ranks them 26th overall. Sportsnet has them finishing 5th in the Pacific. As they're fond of saying on the Ian Furness show, fact or fiction, Kraken fans deserve more optimism than that.
Well, I never like paying attention to that stuff. This isn't college football. You don't have to worry about rankings or anything like that. Let's just start with what the strengths of this team are. And when you have two number one goaltenders and really a solid back end, if we want to look like Riker Evans is number 6. Well, that's a pretty decent number 6. Who's 5? Maybe just based on shot, right shot, left shot. Maybe it's Borgen.
Mm-hmm.
That's your number 5 D-man, and Riker's 6. And then you just move up however you want to combine from there with Montour and Alexiak. Maybe that wouldn't be a lot of fun. Maybe it's Larson Alexiak and Montour.
If
Dunn.
if
I don't know.
if I'm on the other team and I see the defense pairing as Alexiak and Larson, I'm not going out for that shift.
No, I mean, and that's where it's like, it's funny when when the guys come up with like, what are they? Well, 2 number 1 netminders. Grubauer has to prove he can stay healthy for the whole year. But what we saw from Decord last year was sensational. I mean, I think, and goalies take longer to develop, so it's not a surprise it took him that long. I just look around the league, guys take longer. So you've got maybe a possibility of a Swayman Omar kind of 1-1 combination. Today's athletes, like, you're not going to play a goalie 60 games like you did back in the day. Like, it's not Marty Bergruer going to play 70 and Corey Schwab's playing 12, right? Like, this is a different world we live in now. So you got that. You got that great D. The question mark is up front. Can you score? And we don't know. I think you can. I'll look. It is one play on one shift, but Matty Beniers winning a couple puck battles in a preseason game, physically winning a couple puck battles, getting his nose dirty in a scrum in front of the net, putting on, okay, great, to me, great sign. Next step, okay, is 95 healthy? Well, first off season, he's been healthy since he's been here. That's a big addition along the way. Stevenson takes pressure off Beniers down the middle. Glenn, every team in the NHL is looking for center iceman. This team has 4. Who's number 4? Is it Yanni or is it Shane? I don't know. I mean, but 1, 2 are pretty damn good.
And a couple more in the pipeline.
And a couple more. I mean, the kid's a couple years away, but you wait. I would just say this. If you're not going to a Kraken game and Spokane's in town, go to the Showwear Center or up to Everett. You go watch Berkeley Catton play at that level. It'll be sick. It's scary. So I like what they've got. Scoring's huge. They don't have a Nathan McKinnon. They don't have an absolute, if you want to use a baseball term, they don't have an aircraft carrier that can carry him scoring. But they've got team scoring. And when they were successful 2 years ago, that's what they did. And they can roll out 3.5 lines. The 4th line will be interesting. Who's on that? Hell, we don't even know who's on the first 3 lines. We kind of have an idea who the top 9 forwards are. And then, line 4 is probably what? Tanev, if he's still here, doesn't, depending on salary cap stuff. Yanni, same thing. Tolvanen maybe is a 4th liner now. Yanni's a number 1 penalty or number 2 penalty killer. I think they want Matty out there or Chandler Stevenson out there. Yeah. I mean, so like with all due respect to Yanni Gord, let's say he gets bumped down. Well, that's a pretty good sign right there. Right. And I think based on what we saw the other night, I think they like Cartier, and I think I can see him playing in the top 9.